Om Swastiastu. My name is Gusti Ngurahputu Satya Parmana Untung. For this time, I want to explain the material about reference, reference expression, and reference. In the first definition, referring is generally described as an action by a speaker or writer to use linguistic form to give the reader clear information or to identify something. A reference is more commonly understood as a sense of understanding. Reference refers to the relationship between linguistic element or language and non-linguistic element or word, whereas reason refers only to relationship within language, especially words, linguistic form or linguistic device used to identify an entity is called a reference expression and may be a proper noun. The meaning of the referent is just the representation of what is chosen by pronouncing the expression in a particular context. A sentence can also contain more than one reference term. For example, when the sentence Adi is pronounced by his Andi, with its characteristic strength, neither Adi nor his Andi refer to a place, but to the names of individuals identifiable as Adi and Andi. Others argue that the difference between a reference and a referential representation is that there is no natural connection between the reference and the referential representation. The existence of reference representation does not guarantee the existence of reference in the socio-psychical world in which we live. Reference can be used to create representation without the need to prove the existence of a physical reference, such as the spirit of my house or the emperor of Indonesia. In the next types. Number 1. Types of reference. Gives a comprehensive description of the different kinds of reference used in language, identifies identities, and in the world, there are basically 3 types of reference depths. We'll explain it at below. Unique and non-unique reference. If a label expression has a fixed reference, the reference has a unique entity or set of entities with this in mind. Entities such as the Borobudur Temple and the Bermuda Triangle show that unique entities can only be found in certain places, and knowledge about them is part of common knowledge. In another sense, reference can have non-unique entities if the referring expression has a variable reference. Instance of entities like this person, my cousin, somewhere do not belong to a unique class because they are different each time they are used, and knowing them is a matter of special knowledge. It is the psychical and linguistic context that helps speakers identify identities. In the next, concrete and abstract reference. Concrete references are symbolized by concrete or tangible objects such as table, iron, bricks, abstractly, whereas abstract references are symbolized by abstract or immaterial entities such as beauty, democracy, knowledge, philosophy, or abstractly. Indicated by Note that the differently labeled lexems generally arise due to different types of language and might have different meaning for the lexem. Thus, a lexem K has a concrete meaning including interior meaning in relation to key phrase of the front door and abstract meaning including figurative meaning in relation to key to success. And the next, countable and non-countable reference. Nameworthy non-phrase may or may not be countable and may be concrete or abstract. A countable concrete expression is one that is distinct and can be enumerated separately. These include entities such as pens, marble, bottle, and slipper. Abstract countable nouns simultaneously refer to entities such as empowering matter and the advice. In mirrored concrete sentence, there are three kinds of reference. The first concern liquids such as water, sauce, and paints. The second refers to things made up of very small particles such as sand, sugar, and flour. And the third is collecting items around the house such as jewelry, shoes, and other furniture. In uncountable noun phrase, the former recognizes the distinction between singular and plural, but the latter does not, so you could say pen, book, and table. The open space here represents a singular noun and some pens, some books, and some desks, and some apple. In the next, types of reference. Reference discussion have become major concern for semantics and are categorized differently. The method of reference is relatively uncontroversial, even among semantists. As for the type, namely generic and non-generic reference. The definition of generic is not really synonymous with generic and can be understood by considering the following sentence. For example, the lion is a wild animal. A lion is a wild animal. The lion is a wild animal. Any of these propositions can be used to assert general proposition that say something about the class of the lions themselves rather than about a particular group of lions or a particular individual lion. Simply put, the lion entity in the above sentence refers to the reference class. The fact that the lion in the sentence above has a general meaning can be demonstrated with the question, which a lion? Obviously, none of the above sentence are an answer to similar question, as the question is unrelated. For example, a lion is lying in the grass. Lion lying in the grass. If the latter does not have a common reference, there is no need to reference the entire lion class, although not the answer to the question, which lion? Questions like this are closely related to this context and identify two types of his statement that have general reference as an argument. It is predicate of all class mentioned or all class member. Next, definite and indefinite reference. A directional statement is solid if the reference comes from the physical and social environment. Context can be identified by speaker and listener. The instruction for putting clothes in the closet definitely refer to the term clothes and closet. and when the speaker assumes that the listener can make the necessary suggestion to associate each mention with the previous one. This also applies to reference expression. The central term reference is ambiguous if it is a reference that has a unique or nearly unique position in the more limited world of speaker and receiver. For example, this type of specific reference phrase can be used in interrogative words such as "You accept working report?" The central idea of indefinite head phrase is that the identity of the referent is not closely related to the message and must be questioned by the listener from non-expansion. At this point, it should be emphasized that uncertainty is not limited to freely available article. For example, there is something bothering me. Somewhere I saw him. I saw a shadow passing by. Will we have children in the future? And the last, specific and non-specific reference. In order to identify speaker with specific or non-specific reference, we need to understand discourse rather than session by session referential expression. That discourse determines the specificity or non-specificity of a reference. This can be seen from the following example sentence. For example, every morning that the birds are always chirping in the trees. The indefinite phrase that the bird is referring to in the sentence can be understood with a referent interpretation. Specific reference. This includes the particular crane the speaker has in mind. By providing the same context, we can further understand a given reference. We believe we can do what we say. The includes in the answer in the sentence above can be reviewed as referring to non-specific clues. Listeners are lesser about spoken reference. However, I have to admit that very often it is not possible to know exactly if an indefinite phrase is used in a particular reference. Much depends on how the speaker or listener interpret this. Therefore, due to the ambiguity of the supposition, the indefinite non-phrase in the following sentence can be interpreted as being used specially or non-specially. For example, I want to find blue-eyed woman. Under interpretation, indefinite noun phrases are used especially when they imply the existence of a plural from individual matching. The description have blue eyes and can therefore be considered the same meaning in the same context as the specific noun phrase blue-eyed girl. On the other hand, it used indefinitely unless simply or impaired. So this is a material about reference, referring expression, and referent. Thank you for watching. I will be closing with Parama Santi. Om Santi 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 Om.